One of the greatest athletes, one of the greatest fighters in the history, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and in this video we're gonna share his secrets to mental toughness that he himself shared in multiple interviews, and his dad, when his dad was alive, shared as well. His dad actually gave a lot of interviews and gave a lot of insights, and if you don't know, his dad was his coach. He's one of the greatest coaches, to be honest, because he raised 5 world champions and 1 UFC champion, who is Khabib Nurmagomedov, and he shares a lot of interesting insights into Khabib's personal life, because not only is he his coach, but he is his dad, and he knows a lot of really small little details that he shared, and that are really good indicators for you to really understand if sport or whatever you do is something that you want. And one of the very interesting things, which could be a secret or maybe just something to pay attention to, is a memory that he shares, that when Khabib Nurmagomedov was a child, he used to dream about fighting in octagon, and he dreamed about destroying his opponent or knocking down his opponent, and thousands of people cheering him on. And that was happening when he was a child, and that really I really found that very similar to, for example, Kobe Bryant, because when Kobe Bryant was a child, he shared that all he was thinking about was basketball and how he could improve and how he could achieve just the best results that he could, and he had his goal, and the entire world, as he shared, was there to, I don't remember the exact quote, but he basically said something that he tried to find any available information basically from the world that could potentially help him to improve his game. And I feel like the same thing actually Djokovic shares the same, basically the same idea. He became obsessed with tennis when at the age of around like 3 or 4 years old, something like that, maybe a little bit older, and he became just obsessed with tennis, and he really wanted to become the best since his childhood. And he vividly shares his memory that he used to really think that and imagine how he becomes this world champion. And this is one of those things that is a great predictor and a great indicator. If you're dreaming about something, if it's really your desire to become the best of the best in a certain sport, then most probably this is your dream. But a lot of times what happens is that father wants the child to become something that the child doesn't necessarily want, and it's just usually it just doesn't work out. But for Khabib, it obviously wasn't the case. Khabib was the one who wanted to become one of the greatest fighters in the world, and he managed to do that. And that attention, his entire attention in his childhood was on this one thing, which is to become a champion. And if you have a dream, for example, right, and you don't have your at least like 70 or 80% of your attention on this thing, then guess what, most probably it's not gonna work out, because one of the, I don't know, laws of universe or psychological laws is what you pay attention to grows, and what you don't pay attention to fades. Because if there is objectively something out there in the world, like let's say your enemies or something that you're maybe failure, if you don't pay attention to it, it eventually fades away. And if you are paying attention to this one thing, for example, how do I achieve the best results that I can possibly achieve in something, then it's just like everything, all your attention just grows this one thing that you focus on. And for Khabib, it was knocking down his opponent while thousands and thousands and thousands of people were watching him. And that I find really, really powerful weapon. Another thing about Khabib that I really admire is that from his interviews, from what he says, from his actions, you can really tell that Khabib doesn't really care about what people think about him. He doesn't like, if you guys saw some of the videos of how people meet him in Russia when he comes back after his wins, it's absolutely insane. But he really doesn't like that. He doesn't like people's attention, and he just doesn't use people as his mirror, I guess. He doesn't have this ego, I would say. He's the only person whose opinion really truly matters to him is his father, and you can see from his last match how disappointed he was, that how devastated how devastated he was after he won his last match about his father's death. And his father was really the biggest authority for him, really, because his dad is a world champion in coaching world champions. Because there are just so many world champions that he used to coach, and he was really his only, I would say, radar, his only person that to whose opinion he really listen to. And that's really important, to be surrounded by people that really mean you well and that really know what they're doing. And another example of someone who was lucky enough to have such a person in his life is Rafael Nadal, his uncle Tony, coach. I'm gonna attach video somewhere here. You can find video about Rafael Nadal on my channel. Rafael Nadal was really lucky because his uncle Tony was coaching him, and he was only coaching him, and he put so much effort. Actually, Khabib's dad and Uncle Tony are very similar in their coaching styles. Both of their coaching styles were military-like, very harsh, not a lot of compliments. Both of them didn't make a lot of compliments to their trainees, or I don't know how to call them, to Nadal and Khabib. And really, they are very similar in their military-like attitude towards their athletes, because that honestly that works. As much as maybe we don't like this type of approach, it really works because it makes you just so mentally tough. Because if you're able to bear this type of pressure during the practice, it is just going to be that much easier for you during the match. Let's see, another insight into Khabib's career is his injuries. Through the age of 26 all the way up until 28, Khabib had so many injuries. He had 5 surgeries, I believe, or even more than that. And he really believed that he maybe even should give up fighting. He really is a religious guy, and I shared that in my previous video. And his faith really helps him psychologically during his fights, and he shared that he thought that maybe it's just his injuries is God's way to show him that maybe it's time to just finish it, because he had this by that time he already had a pretty good career, and he was thinking that maybe that's it, because it was just so many injuries, so many surgeries. And his dad shares how he told Khabib that he should try one last time, and that after very difficult problems, there comes a blessing always. And that if you really go through this very difficult problem or through very difficult situation, you are gonna be blessed afterwards. And he shares that the taste of winning is only gonna come to those who are patient. And sometimes patience is not sexy. Most times patience is not sexy, but that's what his dad shared. And he went through all these 5 surgeries. He came back and he tried one last time, and it worked. It worked, and that really shows that there are just so many examples that of people that we look up to, like Rafael Nadal, who went through multiple surgeries as well, like Khabib Nurmagomedov, for whom, and from the outside, it really seems like these guys were so undefeated, and it seems like they didn't really have problems, but in reality, it was really tough. And 26, 27, and 28 years old is probably a prime time for most athletes in most sports, and Khabib spent these years really in hospital, and that really sucks. That sucks. But that really shows that most people went through a lot of hardship, went through a lot of problems, and that maybe you should do the same. That's really what I want to say. Maybe you should do the same and go through problems, and just keep in mind that on the other side of that problem, or on that, yeah, on the other side, it's going to be brighter. And another thing that Khabib's dad shared was how he was able to cope with this, just with this mindset when he was just so down, and it was an injury after an injury. He really tried to focus Khabib's attention on everything Khabib has gone through in the past, and during the very difficult times emotionally, it's really great to really look in the past and try to see everything, try to see how much work has already been done, and that it really isn't worth it to give it all up right now, because sometimes, most times, especially athletes, competitive athletes like Khabib, like to look at how far they have to go through, but when it's difficult, honestly, the best thing is sometimes to look at how far you've come, and that's what Khabib's dad shared in one of his interviews, and that is how he was able to overcome this very, very difficult time and come back. And that was a really great comeback, as you guys already know. And I'm over 10 minutes, you guys, and I'm gonna talk about his other secrets to success and insight into his life in my next video. Don't forget to subscribe, click the like button if you like my videos, and thank you so much for watching.